Yo, 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 as we open this thing up, we are back for another audio occasion. It is a podcast for self-starters and those willing to make the most out of any situation. It's a lonely road today. We got no other cast members in the house. You got just me, one mic, one voice. We're going to get this thing rocking anyway, man. We here. Let's do it. Got some big audio for y'all on the way in from one of the legends in the college basketball game. Been getting a lot of love out here lately, which I do appreciate. Had some battles against his coach myself in my times running around at Marquette University. He was at Louisville at that point, and, from there, transitioned to other universities. But we're going to come, got you one from the legend Rick Pitino on the way in today. Let's get it.
Where have you guys been raised that you're so weak mentally that you just give up when something doesn't go right for you? Don't you know what adversity is all about? That's the game of life.
Talk to him. And that's that, man. Short and sweet. Where's your adversity? Where's your toughness? Where's it at? When life starts kicking you in your ass, how do you respond, So it's been a big message floating around there lately. Been seeing that on the timeline with Rick Pitino talking his shit. And, we appreciate that kind of talk over here, As I said, battled against him as a coach for a few years in my college career, but I'm very excited to see him getting a couple of the flowers that he is right now in the college game. One of the better coaches historically, so we're going to show him some love, even if I had to, try to compete against him at one point in my life. Adversity, toughness, things you want to embody, exude as you make your way through life, and definitely a great message for y'all on the way in. But as we get this thing going, get the theme music queued up. Once again, it is a lonely road, but it must be walked anyway. We got big air horns on the way in. And a round of applause for myself back in the house. It is the EFS podcast, episode number 51. I am here, solo, the man, the myth, the legend from the EFS brand himself, the biggest brand you don't know about yet. So if you made it to the audio/visual occasion, please do not forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We love the love over here at the EFS podcast. Myself, the gang who's not here today, but they'll be back soon. But I got y'all. Big talk on the way in from me, solo. We just got to keep the energy up, high level. Big conversation, just me. We gonna hold it down. I'm back. Taking on the moniker Realest A. Smith. Shout out to Stephen A. Smith. But as you know, when I do this solo thing, I gotta switch things up a little bit. Since it's just me, we're gonna have some talk for y'all on the way in. So as I get my theme music faded out, quick check-in with myself, just where I'm at with everything going on in my life, because ain't nobody else to talk to. So I'm talking to y'all on cam today. Been a real good beginning of the year, and I'm really happy about where I'm at. Is everything, life and business goals, fitness, all other things wise, just in a really good space overall. EFS has been on the move first couple of months. A lot of interest from people with what I have to offer on the basketball training side, on the fitness side. Content is moving. The podcast is just moving steadily, slowly. But we appreciate the ground with everything we got going on. So outside of the normal things that I've had going on, just where I'm at right now in a different kind of space after taking on the challenge of training for a marathon, which you saw me announce on social media, and just been going through the process over the last almost 8 weeks now. It's been almost 8 weeks since I've been at this process. So a little check-in on that, just because it is a whole process. And I did release a post the other day on my social media. Actually, I posted it on Twitter, so I made a post on my Instagram about it as well, just talking about just the general just feelings and just experience of training for a marathon, which nobody can kind of prepare you for unless you actually go through it. It has been a bit of a trying challenge, and oddly enough, I just got off the phone with my marathon coach before I got on mic. Do a little check-in with him. Really appreciate the help that I've been given from that guy. One Alex Prestano, gonna shout him out, show him some love on here. For definitely coming in to take on the reins of being my coach and help me push towards the challenge that I'm working towards. So I did enlist some help. I know I'm a fitness professional. I know I've been in this industry a few years now, going on 6, and been in the fitness obviously for a long time before that with my professional basketball career and just doing everything that I needed to do to maintain my body to have the length of career that I actually did. Now transitioning into the fitness side of things, we do as coaches or trainers need help sometimes, especially when we're taking on something that we haven't done So I did reach out to Alex, who is a guy that I met. He works in the network of my regular gig, my 9 to 5-ish, whatever you want to call the job. I wouldn't call it 9 to 5 because it's all fucking kind of crazy, but reached out to him for some help in January. He basically created a path with my training schedule, how my runs are going to be programmed, the different kind of days I'm working through when I'm out there running and just doing my thing, getting ready for the marathon. So one more time, big shout out to him. Definitely appreciate his help along the process. But it is a actual fucking process. I did not know. Well, I'm not going to say I didn't know. I was given advice from other people who I know that have ran marathons. You may not know on here, but I've talked about it other different places, how I've run 3 half marathons in my lifetime up to this point, over the span of like a year and a half, with the goal of doing a full marathon after I ran my 3 halves. But then my body took a little bit of a negative turn, which I'm big on helping people to understand, just to know that I have struggles like you. Definitely started going through a period where I had some muscular strains or muscular injuries just because I think I was going about things the wrong way for a person of my height, my stature, my weight, my muscle mass. I am not your typical runner. And for anyone who knows me from my time when I was a basketball player, through the many, many years that I did that throughout my life, over half my life at that point, you would know that I was a person that fucking hated running and conditioning. So then taking on the challenge of getting into running post-career really just came from being in a space where I told myself that I needed to challenge myself in different ways after leaving the game as a professional basketball player, and just falling in love with it, just the way that it kind of transitioned naturally from me leaving the game to then being a trainer, getting into fitness, and then just being in a space where I'm doing cardio a lot more often. And I kind of caught the runner's bug for a long time. Well, I mean, still now, but, you know, early on, it's been a while since I've been in this running phase and this cardio phase of my life. Like, as a trainer, you know that I'm big on resistance training, but I'm also big on the cardio side of things. And it's been something that's kind of held true to who I am as an individual. So doubling back a little bit off on the tangent, just being in a space where I ran the 3 half marathons to wanting to do a full marathon and not being able to step up to that challenge at that point in my life. Took some time to readjust, retool some things mentally, physically, and just how I'm going about my regiment. And then feeling like I'm ready to take on a challenge this year. At the top of 2025, I signed up for the race that I will be running in April. And just being in a space now to where I've been in the training. Well, this is probably the biggest thing that I've stayed consistent at training for, specifically outside of just general health and wellness, and just being in the space where I want my body to stay in a great physical condition for whatever age I'm at, and being ahead of the curve for as I get older in life. I just really am now in a space to where I'm committed to the marathon, and I'm really taking it on as seriously as I can. But what they do not tell you is the emotional toll that it actually takes on you as you're going through it. And I'm sure any of my listeners, viewers who have ran a marathon, drop it in the comments. Let me know that you shared an experience before. But definitely running a marathon is something that you go through a lot with. Especially if you're training for a spring marathon, because that means you're training through the winter. And on top of knowing that I didn't like conditioning before in my basketball career or life as an athlete, I also don't like fucking being cold. So being in a position to where I'm having to put in a lot of miles outside in the cold through the winter, training for a spring race, is a whole nother different mental experience that I could not prepare myself for until actually going through it. Now, having been in it now for almost 2 months, it has brought out a lot of different feelings and emotions within myself. I said in my post that it's basically a battle between the best parts of yourself and the worst parts of yourself, in a constant, like, you know, tit for tat back and forth. Like the angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other, telling you like, nah, I don't want to fucking go out here and run in 25-degree weather, or stop being a bitch and get out there and do it. You know, like, it's just that back and forth with yourself that you constantly have to go through. And just being a runner, or just being someone who does distance running, or just goes through that kind of stuff on a consistent basis, is literally a challenge of just having to keep yourself going and keep yourself pushing to achieve the overall goal. So why did I initially want to run a marathon outside of just being in fitness? It kind of goes to one of the people that I've showed respect on this podcast, and even in the pre-pod. If you're a Spotify listener, you caught that. But Nipsey Hussle. big influence on my life at one point in my professional career. And it really is kind of a tribute to him and the things that he embodied. I wouldn't say a direct tribute because, it's my challenge to go through. But the marathon was his brand, his clothing company, his stamp on the game in general. So I kind of, fell in love with that as someone who was a fan of his. And then post athletically with wanting to challenge myself, I did kind of take that on as like, yo, like, well, what would Nipsey do in this situation? And it kind of, fell into place that, yo, I'm gonna run a marathon, and whether I want to run multiple, I'll see how it goes after the first one. But where I'm at this point now, I'm committed to it. And going through the experience is a whole different thing. So if you don't know much about marathon running, there's a bunch of different kind of ways you can train for it. Well, not a bunch. There's a few different ways that you train for it on a weekly basis. One being your tempo runs, where you're having to go for a lot of higher speed training, where you're looking to get your heart rate up. And then the longer distance runs, which is supposed to be a lot more steady and like lower intensity, where you're just getting your body used to putting the mileage in. And it's just crazy because I've been at the point now where training for the marathon, I've run multiple distances further than any of my half marathons that I've run, which is 13.1 miles. For anyone that doesn't know that, and a full marathon is 26.2 miles. So along my training, I've run multiple distances that are further than my half marathon already. And up to the point where I ran a half marathon, it was the furthest distance that I ran in my life. So having been now run further than I ever had in my life multiple times just as part of training has been like a whole kind of mind fuck in itself, because it's like, damn, like I ran 15 miles just on Sunday, and when I stopped, the first thought in my head was like, yo, shit, I'm going to have to run 11 more miles when I actually get to this race, which seems nuts and seems crazy, but it is just part of what I have to go through. So yeah, it's a lot of just mental challenge. But what I am finding, it is a very fulfilling experience because I'm pushing myself to do something that I never have done, even the parts of the setbacks to where I feel like my runs haven't gone as well, or just my training isn't up to standard or up to par. It just gives me a feeling of like, all right, cool, you're doing something that is unlike yourself, and it is a new experience to just take on and just stay motivated through and be at a position to where on the other side of it, you achieve the greater goal. So, that's kind of where I'm at with that. So that's the biggest thing in my life that I'm going through right now, outside of other things business-wise, with just getting EFS trained up and running, and in the point to where I'm making it something that grows and is sustainable, and I'm on the path with that as well. So both of those things mixed in right now is where I'm at personally. So I wanted to give a chance to share, give myself a chance to share that with y'all so that y'all can connect with me. And again, if you're a runner or someone who's been through a marathon, I've seen some people who saw my post that I put out when I really announced it early in the year, have checked back in with me and kind of asked how it's going. So there you go. Y'all get it on the pod. So, join along the journey with me as I go towards it, and we'll check back in on that process as we go forward. And yeah, that's pretty much that with that. And that said, man, as I finish up my check-in with you guys, time to get into some current stuff, man. I'll give you guys a couple of opinions, couple of feelings on things that have been going on currently since we last spoke when I was with the guys, with the gang, with the fellas. So we just touch on a couple things. First and foremost, want to give a big rest in peace shout out to Volleta Wallace, the mother of Biggie Smalls, Brooklyn legend. As you know, me, I'm from the town. So she passed the other day. Came across the timeline 4 days ago from where I'm at. Well, even longer for y'all when y'all hear this. But she passed away at the age of 72 years old. From what they say is natural causes. So definitely want to take a chance on my platform to give a big rest in peace shout out to Volleta Wallace. Biggie was, some say a legend, some say not, depending on how you feel about it. But, definitely from my home, Brooklyn, New York, want to give a big shout out to Volleta Wallace and rest in peace. Long life. When you make it to that age, you definitely, have lived and have experienced a lot. A lot of that has some have been traumatic from her, because children, passing before their parents is a whole experience. But she stood strong through the whole thing and was really a presence for, the representation of her son post his life, ending. So from me to the rest of the world out there, just making sure that we show love to Volleta Wallace and give a big round of applause for everything that she's met in her life, celebration of her life in general. So shouts to that. So outside of that, as we move forward, a couple other things we want to get to. Keeping in music, before we get to some other stuff in the sports realm, J. Cole put out a song most recently. Pretty whack that Waldo's not here for this one, because I definitely would have liked his opinion and his take on the song, just because I know he's a Cole guy. Not to say that I'm not, but I do think that it was noteworthy to bring up on the podcast his song Clouds that he put out. My opinion on the song is that I definitely like what he's doing and where he's at right now post the whole Kendrick, Drake, J. Cole mix-up that we had going on last year. And I'm really just a fan of how he's kind of pushed past the situation to then keep on putting out music and doing things that are creative and still organic to him to keep people engaged. And I would say, and I've said it on the podcast before, that, I do take back a lot of my stance about how the whole thing went. Not to say that I don't feel like, it was a little bit of a weak move still to back out the battle, but the human side of me does respect the path that he took, and I think that right now he's doing a good job of winning people back over again, anyone that he may have lost. And just the song itself is kind of fire. I like where he's at lyrically. I like what he's talking about outside of just him still, putting himself as one of those best rappers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which to me, my claim still remains that, you can't really have yourself in those conversations. But everything he's doing lyrically, I fuck with, so I ain't going to shade him too much, and just shouts to him for putting out quality music. And that song, is a good one. I'm not necessarily a fan of how it's been released. I do like the direct-to-consumer thing that he's doing, just because it might be the next pathway forward for just artists in general as far as how they release music. And I do think that it's something that he's trying that could be useful, in the future going forward for himself and just, like I said, other artists in general. But I do like the song Clouds. I see it got a lot of love online, a lot of people bobbing their heads to it, a lot of people with reactions to it. So yeah, man, shouts to Cole on that, man, and just keep doing good things. I do think that he got, well, not think. It was a point online a couple of days ago where I saw he got called out by one Freddie Gibbs. So the shot fired by Freddie Gibbs was a Instagram post on his story, I think, that said, niggas be rapping about how they kill rappers and they kill careers and blah, 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 but they be backing out of rap beefs. So my stance is still that, you got to kind of eat that at this point, Cole. Not that the verses ain't fire, not that the songs you putting out ain't good, but you do kind of have to still live with the stain of backing out that rap beat and then calling yourself the best and how you killed this and that and all that other shit. So to each his own. Feel how you want to feel about Cole. I do think the music is quality, and I do think that he has a place in the game and has a lot to say. So I'm looking forward to his next full project that he releases whenever that time comes. Y'all know how I feel about the whole shit that Drake just released. You know how I feel about Kendrick and what he's putting out. So my stance is still cemented. So just wanted to give Cole a little bit of love for putting out what he did, because it's a good track. It's a good track. If you ain't heard it, go listen to it. It is called Clouds. You have to find it on his site because it's not on any kind of the DSP. It's not on Apple. It's not on Spotify. Again, that whole direct-to-consumer thing is just the thing for him right now. And, I'm glad that he's speaking to his fans, his core group, in that way. Now, as we transition away from music, I want to get into sports a little bit, man, and a couple things that have been hot on the the timelines, the news cycles, and all that. One come from the person that we did open up the podcast with the audio. It goes to Rick Pitino and his stance on where he's at in recruiting for the college game currently, and I got a piece of audio to go along with it, so check it out.
Looking at a high school basketball player, we're losing Aaron Scott, Kadari Richmond, and Davon
Shouts
Smith.
to Kadari,
so we're looking
too.
for 3 transfer guys.
Wait, so you're not even looking at any college or high school?
No, not this year.
So if a 5-star high school kid calls you up and is like, hey, I know you're not looking for, but I want to come to St. John.
I probably wouldn't take him because I don't think you can win and win big with high school kids.
And that's that for what he said. Different perspective, and I am interested to see how things go over the next couple years in the college realm, a college game. With St. John's being one of the better teams in the Big East Conference and in the nation in general, I would like to see what a lot of these coaches do feel and, their thoughts on recruiting high school kids. As we know, the game of basketball has been in a very different space, especially on the college level with the whole NIL thing and just players receiving an influx of money into their pockets and into their lives and into just the game of basketball, to which I do support. I'm never going to be a hater, and I've said this before on this podcast about young niggas and these dudes being able to get their money. But it does create a weird space for just college athletics in general, to where that and the transfer portal makes it a scenario to where you might not even have to look at high school kids to be successful in college. Not to say that the most highly touted high school recruits won't be offered college scholarships, because I'm sure they will be. But I do think it's an interesting stance for Rick Pitino to take, to where he's not looking at high school kids, at least for his next year. With the transfer portal being open and with St. John's having a whole host of money in the NIL, which Rick Pitino has also not bragged about, but said, that this is why we're as successful as we are right now, being able to offer players money to come play for us at that university. And just seeing how that goes over the next few years, to where high school kids, aren't going to be that valued on the college level, just because they may not possess some of the things that are needed and necessary to be winners and to help winning programs, Just coming out of the high school game right now, we know that a lot of these players mentally aren't as tough as they were before. Not to call them soft or anything like that, but the kids just don't really handle adversity like that right now. And kids are also have a different perspective on the game than when, I was coming up with players even before me. So it is an interesting space to be in now, to where one of the most prominent coaches in college basketball is saying that he's not even thinking about getting a high school kid, at least this year, because I'm sure he's going to have to revisit that at some point as things go on a year-by-year basis, to where you're losing players and the transfer portal may not look as appealing as it might in another year going forward. So I don't really know. It's a weird comment from him to say that, but I also think that he's doing his thing right now. We'll see how the rest of the college season goes, with it getting into March and things getting a little bit more to the winner go home side of things. But yeah, it's an interesting space, man. I do think that basketball is still in trouble in a lot of ways. And that is going to be something to watch for going forward. Definitely, 100% for sure. So how you feel about it, man? Drop a comment. Let me know your thoughts on just Rick Pitino in general and what he feels about recruiting high school kids, or how you feel about the high school kids coming up. If you're any bit knowledgeable or in the game of basketball, to give an opinion on that. Would definitely be interested in where y'all at on that for sure. Keeping it hoop, we'll take it to the NBA as the next higher level above college basketball. Want to get into a quick conversation about where we're at with the face of the NBA. Most recently, Anthony Edwards has come out and said that he does not want to be the face of the NBA when he was being interviewed. Said Wemby can have it. This is All-Star Weekend, actually, when he was being interviewed by one of the journalists out there. And just gave a perspective that he does not feel like he wants to be the face of the NBA. And I know right now we're in a different space with the greats transitioning out of the game, that being KD, LeBron, and Steph, the most three notable ones that we watched for years and years and years now. Not that they're leaving right now, but we know their careers, they got a lot less career ahead of them than what they've had behind them. So finding the next face of the league has been a conversation for the past couple of years, and I think we're in a space now to where it's a different conversation with the league being as is, to where some of the best players in the NBA are not American-born, homegrown talent, i.e. the Giannis's, i.e. the Jokic's, the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's right now on top of the league, right, as far as being an MVP candidate. So we know that a lot of the top players in the league, Luka, almost forgot to mention him, are not homegrown talents. And I did hear a lot of opinions about it over the past week or so. One being Carmelo Anthony, who said that the face of the league cannot be a foreign-born guy because this is our shit here in the States. My thoughts on it, I kind of feel how Melo feels as far as it being an American-born game. So for the league who is in America, for it to be accepted by the masses, it should be somebody that is from here and kind of comes from the American pipeline towards the NBA, would make it feel a little bit more tangible. I'm not sure it would go the way that, you know, the NBA would like it as far as growth if it were to be somebody else like the Wembys or the Lukas or the Jokic's, who doesn't even seem like he's interested in being the face of the league. Like, this whole face of the league conversation in itself is just a very tricky place, you know. And I've heard people say that Anthony Edwards doesn't really have a choice in the matter. Like, they're going to make you the face of the league if they want to make you the face of the league. But I do also feel like we got other options who are the face of the league that have been successful, like i.e. Jason Tatum, you know. And I know he oftentimes doesn't really get mentioned in this conversation, and I'm not sure why, with him being as successful and as much of a winning player as he's been over the course of his career. Like, I do feel like it's a little disrespectful for him to not be even thought of or mentioned in those conversations, because I haven't heard anybody mention his name as a potential candidate for face of the league over the last week as this thing's been circling around and people have been giving their opinions on it. And I do watch for that kind of stuff too, because I'm seeing like, yo, what so-and-so think, like what Melo think, what Stephen A think, what all these people who are prominent sports figures who giving their opinions on a week-to-week basis, like why nobody's really mentioned Jason Tatum. Because for me, that would be the player that would stand to stake a claim as the face of the league right now. Like, he's just won a championship. He's been winning on a high level, maybe not the actual championship, but conference finals appearances over the past few years. So why not Jason, you know? Or why hasn't that been something that the NBA's leaned into? I know a few years ago they tried to go with Ja, or like was looking like they were going with Ja when, you know, the whole Ja wilding out thing with the guns and flashing firearms and things happened, to then it being Anthony Edwards just because he was the loudest and one of the most boisterous players in the league. And personality-wise, too, people kind of like leaning into him because of that. But for me, it just didn't really make sense that Jason Tatum was not really in consideration for that, and that he's not really now, or at least from what I'm hearing around the circles, you know. But JT has been dogging, and he's been playing very well this year. From everyone's opinions, the Boston Celtics are still the team to beat in the league, and they go out there and they prove it. So, you know, why not Jason Tatum is what I'm thinking. You know, I think he's a player that embodies the look, maybe not the personality per se, but, you know, I think he's a player that warrants that kind of consideration from everything that he's done in his career. And I do think, again along the lines of what Melo said about it being someone who has to be homegrown talent, that should be the face of the league. So, yo, what's up with Jason? Why not? You know, what's the deal with that, NBA? Like, you know, what are y'all thoughts, though? Like, who do you think could be the face of the NBA now and going forward? So, you know, drop it in the comments. Let me know what y'all feeling. You know, let me know what y'all thinking on that as we wrap this topic up. Next topic I want to touch on real quick, also keeping it NBA and also keeping it somebody that we had just mentioned. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has now decided going forward in his career that he was going to be dropping his representation, his agent, and being in a place to where he's going to represent himself right before he's in line for a big payday to the tune of $300 million plus. I support it, man. I do support it. I do think that there's examples of people who've represented themselves in the league before. One that falls to memory most quickly is Ray Allen. I could probably think of a few more if I took some time to dig in mentally, but it's not like it's not been done before. And me being someone who's had to deal with agents in my professional career, had to because I didn't really have the option not to. I do think it is a love-hate kind of thing sometimes, because agents are going to do what they can to represent you, but also agents don't always operate within your best interests at all points as well, even though they should, because they technically work for you. So, you know, the whole agent thing is just tricky. And in the NBA, it's a little bit different because the players are pretty much directly paying their agents for their representation out of their contracts and all that other stuff. Like, in my case, when I was an overseas player, agents, if you didn't know this, here's a quick tidbit for y'all now. Agents do not get paid from the players in most scenarios overseas. Normally, the team is going to front the agent fees for whatever transaction they are responsible for bringing you to the team. Like, teams normally overseas will pay the agent, so where the player doesn't actually see the brunt of that, like losing the money financially for, you know, the agent services. But either way, still, agents can operate within your best interest in great situations, but agents can also put you in a position to where you like are a little bit pissed at them oftentimes in your career. And I know a lot of players over the time that have been NBA to overseas guys who just have not been happy with their representation. So I do think anytime a player is in position to put himself as the, like, I'm representing me and I'm going to handle all my business going forward, it is a positive thing if done right. The flip side of it is just making sure that you have all the understanding that you need to as far as the paperwork, as far as the clauses within the contract, and as far as the things that agents are a lot more skilled in doing over their time of being agents and what to knowing what to look for and what to kind of negotiate on your behalf. You may not be as skilled in doing that if you're like SGA or somebody, but I'm always like of the mindset that if you feel confident enough, then yeah, bet on yourself, man. And in his position, I don't really think he has to do much betting because his career has warranted the money that he's going to earn. So from that, just I think go for it. Like, why do you need an agent if you already know you're going to be first team all the NBA and you've hit all the benchmarks to achieve this kind of money and this kind of money and that? Like, for it's kind of easy at that point. It's not really much negotiation. It's like, here's where I'm at. Pay me this, and then let's move forward. So big shout out to him with that. You know, I'm big on the bet on yourself gang, and I think that's the next step and something that I would love to see from a lot more players, to really just making sure that they're stamping themselves and not having to have the agent stand behind everything, and then having to pay the agent on top of that for his services, which, you know, sometimes when you are that level, it's like, what do you even need it for, you know? So shouts to SG on that. Big payday coming, and, you know, you're playing well, busting ass out there, and I'm really, really happy about what you're doing, and I think you are in line for the MVP. I think you should have been in line for it last year, but, you know, that's a whole nother story with the whole Jokic thing, but shouts to you, man. Definitely do your thing the rest of the season. We'll see how the OKC season plays out. They are currently first in the West Conference, second in the NBA, and, yeah, we in the home stretch after this all-star thing is done. And we see where everybody shakes out. A lot of interesting stuff going on with the league, and just seeing where everybody falls in line headed into the nitty-gritty of the playoffs that's coming up. And that said, we are going to get into our Real Talk segment. Real Talk is just going to be pretty motivational today, just because we are at the point of the year where the whole New Year's resolutions and New Year's new me starts to like weigh on people, and they do what human beings normally do, which is to revert to the means. So Real Talk won't be too long today. I got to get out of here pretty soon to get to some things myself. So just another moment to motivate you guys to check in with yourself and stay on top of your goals for real. Just because this year, we 2 months down already, and I feel like I blinked twice and New Year's happened and we already headed towards March, where the weather's kind of heating up a little bit. Hopefully it stays that way, because, you know, y'all know I don't fuck with the winter at all. But yeah, man, just stay on top of your goals and stay on top of the path to achieve those goals, because normally once human beings revert to the mean is where they lose sight of the little steps in between and the small habits that create the big change. And myself included, I would say, you know, being transparent, I've fallen off of one of my goals as frequently as I would like to. One of my goals headed into this year was to meditate a lot more than I was in 2024. And I was really great at it to start the year. Was doing it about good 5-6 times a week, 5-6 days a week, I would say. I kind of fell off track with that. So sometimes the motivation is for myself to kind of connect with you guys, and then, you know, we push through this thing together. But definitely stay on top of your goals, man, and check in. Literally check in every month to see how you're doing, you know. And I would say some goals I've been doing really well at the first couple months in the year. Some things I did well at and kind of fell off. But in totality, you should always be in a position of assessing and then reprioritizing how you do things on a month-to-month basis to make sure, again, those little victories are leading towards the bigger goal of whatever you're looking to achieve and whatever successes you're looking to have. And that said, man, that's pretty much it for me. I ain't going to make it too long of me just sitting here talking to y'all. Real Estate Smith, I gave y'all a little bit, but I got to give y'all a quote on the way out because it's on just me today. And the quote today is going to be simple and sweet. It says that, and it's not from anybody specifically, it's just one that I really, really find that means a lot to me, and definitely right now. And the quote is that a winner is just a loser who tried one more time. I repeat, a winner is just a loser who tried one more time, and let that sink in for what it is, but definitely keep pushing y'all as y'all go through this year, as y'all go through this life. I will wrap things up by telling you to stay safe and guard yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, and all things in between. But with that said, EFS Podcast episode number 51 is out. I'll catch you on the next go round. Peace.